Jiho sat in the back row of the comparative biology classroom, trying not to yawn. The lecture hall was designed to accommodate dozens of different species, which meant the furniture looked strange to human eyes. Some students sat in chairs filled with liquid. Others hung from the ceiling in crystalline webs. A few floated in contained atmosphere bubbles that drifted slowly around the room. He had been at the Galactic Cooperative Academy for 3 weeks now, and he was still getting used to being one of only 3 humans in the entire station. Earth had joined the galactic community just 2 years ago, and the integration process was slow. Most aliens had never seen a human in person before Jiho arrived. Professor Velthor floated at the front of the class. He was a queller, which meant he looked like a large jellyfish with dozens of tentacles and 3 eye clusters. His voice came through the translation device embedded in every student's ear. Today's assignment is simple, Professor Velthor announced. I want each of you to describe 3 adaptive survival strategies from your homeworld. Choose examples that show how life on your planet learned to thrive in different conditions. This will help us understand the beautiful diversity of life across the galaxy. Around the room, students began murmuring to each other. Jiho heard several of them discussing what they would write about. It sounded like most of them were planning to describe pretty basic stuff about plants and small animals. Sitting 2 rows ahead, Tyeri turned her crystalline head toward Jiho. She was a Vilnath, and her body looked like it was carved from living diamond. Light refracted through her in beautiful patterns when she moved. This assignment is worth 15% of our final grade, she said to Jiho. Her voice had a musical quality, like wind chimes. Professor Velthor is very particular about the details. You should start researching tonight. Jiho smiled and nodded. Thanks, but I think I'll be okay. This seems pretty straightforward. Terry's light patterns flickered, and what Jiho had learned was confusion. You already know what you will write about? Yeah, I mean, there's tons of examples from Earth. I'll probably just write about some basic animal stuff. Should take me like an hour, maybe less. Next to Terry, Hyun extended one of his tentacles in what looked like concern. Hyun was also a queller, smaller than the professor but with brighter coloring. If you need help with research access, I can show you the xenobiology databases. They have information on most garden worlds. I appreciate it, Jiho said, but I grew up watching nature documentaries. I've got plenty of material in my head already. Do-hyun, who sat on Jiho's left, made a chittering sound. He was a Kresic, an insectoid species with delicate wings and thin legs. His translator converted his clicks into words. Your confidence is admirable. My homeworld has such simple ecology that I will need to research carefully to find 3 interesting examples. Jiho felt a little bad. He didn't mean to sound arrogant. It was just that the assignment really did seem easy to him. Back on Earth, this would have been elementary school level work. He remembered doing reports on animal adaptations when he was 8 years old. I'm sure you'll do great, Jiho told Do-hyun. From what you've told me about your planet, it sounds really interesting. Professor Velthor's tentacles waved for attention. Remember, class, I want you to think deeply about these adaptations. Consider the environmental pressures that created them. Think about how different life could have evolved if conditions were different. This is not just a list of facts. I want analysis. The other students began taking detailed notes. Jiho pulled out his datapad and typed a few quick reminders to himself. Bears in hibernation, maybe. Something about snake venom. Humans and persistence hunting. Done. He could write this in his sleep. After class ended, Jiho walked with Minji toward the cafeteria. Minji was one of the other 2 humans at the academy, a biology major who had been studying alien life forms since before Earth joined the galactic community. What are you writing about for Velthor's assignment? Minji asked. I don't know, probably hibernation, venom, and endurance hunting. Quick and easy, Jiho said. Minji stopped walking. She stared at him with wide eyes. Jiho, tell me you're joking. What? It's a simple assignment. 3 adaptive strategies. Those are 3 adaptive strategies. Do you have any idea how the aliens are going to react to those topics? Minji asked. Jiho shrugged. They're just normal Earth biology. We learned about this stuff in middle school. Minji pinched the bridge of her nose, a very human gesture that looked out of place on the alien station. Jiho, listen to me very carefully. Most species in the galaxy evolved on what we would call paradise worlds. Stable climates, abundant resources, very few predators. They don't have bears that can sleep for 6 months. They don't have snakes that can kill with a single bite. And they definitely don't have predators that chase their prey until it dies from exhaustion. But the assignment is about survival strategies from our homeworld, Jiho protested. That's what Earth has. I know. I'm just saying, be prepared for some strong reactions. Minji started walking again. Remember last week when you mentioned that humans used to hunt mammoths by throwing pointy sticks at them? 3 students filed formal complaints about violent content. Jiho did remember that. He had thought it was a weird overreaction at the time. He was just talking about history. You think I should write about something else? He asked. I think you should write about whatever you think best answers the assignment, Minji said. But maybe include some context. Explain why these adaptations exist. Don't just list them like facts. That night, Jiho sat in his small dorm room and worked on the assignment. He tried to follow Minji's advice and include context, but honestly, he didn't think it was necessary. The adaptations were self-explanatory. Animals hibernated to survive winter. Snakes had venom to hunt and defend themselves. Persistence hunters used endurance to outlast faster prey. He wrote clear descriptions of each adaptation. He included scientific terms where appropriate. He added references to Earth's biological databases. The whole assignment took him about 90 minutes, including the time he spent looking up proper scientific names. When he finished, he read through it once more. It seemed fine to him. Informative, well-organized, and accurate. He submitted it to the class database and went to bed. The next morning, he would present his findings to the class. It would be simple and straightforward. After all, he was just describing normal Earth biology. He had no idea that his easy homework was about to cause the biggest incident in the Academy's 300-year history. The classroom felt different the next day. Jiho couldn't quite explain why, but there was a tension in the air that hadn't been there before. Maybe it was because presentation day always made students nervous. He settled into his seat and waited for class to begin. Professor Velthor drifted to the front of the room, his tentacles arranging themselves into what Jiho had learned was a pleased posture. Good morning, students. Today you will present your findings on adaptive survival strategies. I have reviewed all submissions and I must say I am impressed with the thought you have all put into this assignment. Taeri was called first. She moved to the front of the class, her crystalline body refracting the light into rainbow patterns across the walls. She began her presentation with confidence. On my homeworld of Vilnius, our primary plant analogs survive through harmonic crystallization, she explained. A hologram appeared above her, showing crystalline structures that looked like trees made of glass. These organisms share nutrients through resonance frequencies. When one structure has excess energy, it creates vibrations that neighboring structures can absorb. This allows entire forests to survive seasonal changes in our sun's output. The class murmured appreciatively. Professor Velthor's eye clusters focused intently on the hologram, and his tentacles waved in approval. Terry continued with 2 more examples, each one describing peaceful cooperative survival strategies. When she finished, several students offered verbal praise. Jiho had to admit it was interesting stuff, even if it seemed almost too gentle to be real. Hyun presented next, describing the coral-like colonies on his waterworld that filtered atmospheric particles through collective action. Then Do-hyun explained the pheromone communication networks that allowed his world's fauna to coordinate behavior and avoid conflict. Every presentation followed a similar pattern. Cooperation, efficiency, peaceful coexistence. The survival strategies were all about harmony with the environment, rather than struggling against it. Then Professor Velthor called Jiho's name. Jiho walked to the front of the classroom, his datapad in hand. He activated the holographic display and pulled up his first example. For my first survival strategy, I'm going to talk about hibernation, he began. Specifically how Earth bears survive extreme seasonal changes. A hologram of a grizzly bear appeared above him, massive and covered in thick brown fur. Jiho heard a few gasps from the audience, but he assumed they were just surprised by how large bears were. Bears are large predators that live in regions with harsh winters, Jiho explained. When food becomes scarce and temperatures drop below freezing, bears enter a state called hibernation. Their metabolism slows down dramatically. Their heart rate drops from around 50 beats per minute to only 8 or 9. Their body temperature decreases by several degrees. He pulled up a diagram showing the physiological changes. During hibernation, which can last 5 to 7 months, bears don't eat, drink, urinate, or defecate. They survive entirely off stored body fat. A bear can lose up to 30% of its body weight during a single hibernation period. The classroom was silent. Jiho looked up from his datapad and saw that every student was staring at him, with what he could only describe as horror. Professor Velthor's tentacles had frozen mid-wave. "I apologize," the professor said slowly. "My translator must be malfunctioning. Did you say 7 months without consuming nutrients?" "Yes, that's correct," Jiho confirmed. "Some bears can hibernate even longer if the winter is particularly harsh. And they lose 30% of body mass and survive?" Terry's voice had lost its musical quality. She sounded strained. "Well, yeah. That's kind of the whole point of hibernation. They build up fat reserves in the fall and then live off them through the winter." Jiho waited for follow-up questions, but none came. The student seemed too shocked to speak. He decided to move on to his second example. "Okay, so for my second survival strategy, I want to talk about venom systems in snakes." He switched the hologram to show an inland taipan.
Its scales gleaming in the light. "This is an inland taipan."
"One of the most venomous snakes on Earth. It produces a complex neurotoxin that it injects through specialized fangs. A single bite contains enough venom to kill approximately 100 adult humans, or 250,000 mice." Doyun made a strangled clicking sound and fell sideways out of his seat. His wings twitched spasmodically as he hit the floor. Several students screamed. Hyun retreated completely into his protective shell. Terry's crystalline structure made a sharp cracking sound, and a thin fissure appeared along her shoulder. "Wait, what's happening?" Jiho asked, genuinely confused. He moved toward Dohyun. "Is he okay?" "Do not approach!" Professor Velthor's voice boomed through the translator, louder than Jiho had ever heard it. Two of the professor's tentacles slammed against the emergency medical button on the wall. The classroom door burst open and 3 medical personnel rushed in, heading straight for Dohyun. They carefully lifted him onto a floating stretcher while checking his vital signs. Professor Velthor drifted toward Jiho, but kept several meters of distance between them. "Student Jiho, I need you to explain something to me very carefully. When you say this creature produces enough toxin to kill 100 humans, are you speaking theoretically? Is this a mathematical model?" "No, it's measured fact," Jiho said. "I mean, obviously they don't actually test it on humans anymore, but the venom potency has been well documented. The LD50 is extremely low." "LD50? Terry whispered from her seat. "That stands for lethal dose 50%. That means they tested it enough to know how much kills half the subjects." "Well, yeah, but that was a long time ago and mostly with mice," Jiho said, trying to be helpful. "Modern venom research uses cell cultures and computer models." The medical team was wheeling Dohyun out of the classroom. He appeared to be conscious but disoriented. Professor Velthor's eye clusters were all focused on Jiho now. "Student Jiho, I'm going to ask you a direct question and I need you to answer honestly. Is your presentation describing real organisms that currently exist on Earth, or is this creative fiction?" "They're real," Jiho said. "I can pull up the Earth biological database if you want to verify. There are thousands of venomous species. Snakes, spiders, jellyfish, fish, even some mammals. I just picked one of the more potent examples." Another student made a choking sound and had to leave the room. "I think," Professor Velthor said carefully, "that we should end today's presentations early. Student Jiho, please come with me to my office. The rest of you are dismissed." As the students filed out, Jiho heard them whispering. He caught fragments of their conversations. Did he say 5 to 7 months without eating? A toxin that can kill hundreds of beings. Why would evolution create something like that? "I told you the Deathworlder classification wasn't an error." Jiho followed Professor Velthor down the corridor, his datapad still in hand. He had only presented 2 of his 3 examples. He hadn't even gotten to persistence hunting yet. In the professor's office, Velthor gestured for Jiho to sit. The professor's tentacles were moving in agitated patterns that Jiho had never seen before. "Jiho," the professor said quietly, "I need you to understand something. In 300 years of teaching at this academy, across thousands of students from hundreds of worlds, I have never heard of survival strategies like the ones you just described." "Really?" Jiho was genuinely surprised. "But these are pretty basic examples. I didn't even pick the really extreme stuff." Professor Velthor's tentacles went completely still. "There is more extreme content on your world?" "Well, yeah. I mean, Earth has some pretty intense ecosystems. I kept it simple for the assignment. The professor was quiet for a long moment. Then he activated his communication device. I need to contact the xenobiology department, he said, and possibly the dean, and perhaps the medical ethics board. Jiho sat in the chair, completely bewildered. He had just described normal Earth biology. Why was everyone acting like he had presented horror fiction? Outside the office window, he could see students gathering in groups, all of them talking animatedly. Some of them kept glancing back toward the biology building. His datapad buzzed with a message from Minji. I heard what happened in class. Are you okay? Also, I tried to warn you, Jiho typed back. I don't understand what went wrong. I just described bears and snakes. Minji's response came quickly. That's exactly what went wrong. Jiho had never been to the dean's office before. It was larger than he expected, with viewing ports that showed the stars beyond the station. The room was arranged to accommodate multiple species, with different atmospheric zones separated by nearly invisible barriers. Dean Kolrath was a Veskian, a species that looked somewhat like a six-legged lizard covered in iridescent scales. She sat behind a desk made of some dark material that seemed to absorb light. Next to her stood three individuals that Jiho didn't recognize, all wearing the insignia of the xenobiology department. Please sit, Jiho, Dean Kolrath said. Her voice was calm but firm. Jiho sat in the chair designed for humanoid species. Professor Velthor drifted to one side of the room, his tentacles tucked close to his body in what Jiho now recognized as an anxious posture. One of the xenobiology experts, a tall being with too many joints in their limbs, leaned forward. I am Dr. Naileth. I need to ask you some questions about your presentation today. Okay, Jiho said. He still wasn't sure what he had done wrong, but everyone seemed very serious. The examples you provided, Dr. Naileth continued. The creature that survives months without nutrients and the one that produces lethal toxins. These are real organisms currently living on Earth? Yes, grizzly bears and inland taipans. They're both pretty well documented. Dr. Naileth exchanged glances with the other experts. Can you provide access to your planet's biological databases? We need to verify this information. Sure. Jiho pulled out his datapad and connected it to the room's main display. He navigated to Earth's public scientific database and pulled up the entries for both species. The room went silent as the aliens read through the data. Jiho watched their expressions change from skepticism to disbelief to what looked like horror. This says the bear's metabolism slows to near-death levels, one expert whispered. The snake's venom causes complete neuromuscular paralysis followed by hemorrhaging, another read. Aloud, Dr. Naileth pulled up additional files. There are videos here. May I play them? Go ahead, Jiho said. The first video showed a grizzly bear in the wild catching salmon from a river. The bear was massive, easily weighing several hundred kilograms. It moved with surprising speed, its claws flashing as it grabbed fish from the water. Dean Kolrath's scales changed color, shifting from green to a pale yellow. That creature masses at least 300 kilograms and moves that quickly? Grizzly bears can run up to 55 kilometers per hour, Jiho said. They're actually really fast for their size. The second video showed an inland taipan striking at prey. The snake's movement was almost too fast to see, just a blur of scales and fangs. Professor Velthor made a sound that the translator didn't convert into words. His tentacles had curled into tight spirals. These organisms are predators, Dr. Naileth said slowly. Apex predators according to this database. Well, yes, Jiho confirmed. Bears are omnivores, but they're definitely at the top of their food chain. Snakes are pure carnivores. And humans coexist with these creatures? Dean Kolrath asked. I mean, we usually avoid them, but yeah. There are bears in North America, Asia, and Europe. Snakes are on every continent except Antarctica. One of the other experts, who had been quietly reading through files, suddenly spoke up. I found Earth's classification in the Galactic Registry. It's listed as Class 12 Deathworld. The room went very quiet. I thought that was an error, Professor Velthor said softly. So did I, Dean Kolrath admitted. Class 12 is reserved for worlds with extreme environmental hostility. We haven't encountered a Class 12 world with intelligent life in over 1,000 years. Jiho was starting to understand that maybe Earth was more unusual than he had realized. What class are most inhabited worlds? Class 2 or 3, Dr. Naileth answered. Stable climates, moderate gravity, abundant resources, minimal predation pressure. What makes Earth a Class 12? Jiho asked. Dr. Naleth pulled up Earth's full environmental profile. Gravity nearly double what most species evolved in. Atmospheric oxygen levels that would be toxic to 70% of known species. Temperature ranges that exceed most species' total survival threshold. Weather patterns that include hurricanes, tornadoes, and lightning storms. Seismic activity, volcanic eruptions, and apparently, an ecosystem filled with organisms that produce lethal toxins and can survive months without sustenance. Also, another expert added, reading from their own datapad, it says here that Earth's dominant predator species practices persistence hunting, which involves chasing prey for extended periods until it dies from exhaustion. Oh, that was my third example, Jiho said. I didn't get to present it because class ended early. Everyone stared at him. You were going to describe persistence hunting to a classroom of students from Garden Worlds? Dean Colrath asked. It's a really efficient hunting strategy, Jiho said defensively. Humans aren't the fastest runners, but we have really good endurance and cooling systems. We can run for hours without stopping. Our ancestors would track animals and keep chasing them until they collapsed from heat exhaustion. Then we would kill them while they were helpless. The translator devices around the room all seemed to glitch at the same time, creating a moment of static. You hunt by chasing prey until it experiences organ failure from hyperthermia. Dr. Naleth's voice was very quiet. We don't really do it anymore, Jiho said quickly. Modern humans use other hunting methods. But yes, that's how our ancestors hunted for thousands of years. Professor Velthor drifted closer to the dean's desk, as if seeking support. How is it possible that humans evolved on such a world and developed advanced civilization? I mean, it's just Earth, Jiho said. It's all we've ever known. To us, it's normal. At that moment, the door opened and Minji rushed in, followed by Yuna, the third human student at the academy. Dean Colrath. I request permission to speak on behalf of the human students, Minji said formally. Granted, the dean replied. Minji moved to stand next to Jiho. Yuna joined them, creating a line of 3 humans facing the assembled aliens. What Jiho described in his presentation is standard educational content on Earth, Minji explained. Children learn about hibernation, venom, and persistence hunting in elementary school. We study these topics because they're fundamental to understanding our planet's ecology. Your children learn about predation and lethal toxins? One of the experts asked. Yes, Yuna confirmed. We also learn about photosynthesis, weather patterns, and the water cycle. These are basic concepts. Dr. Naleth was scrolling through more of Earth's database, their expression growing more disturbed with each page. I'm finding references to creatures called crocodiles that can hold their breath underwater for hours while waiting to ambush prey, and eagles that can see small animals from several kilometers away, and jellyfish that produce toxins that can kill a human in minutes. There's also the platypus, Jiho offered helpfully. It's a mammal that lays eggs and has venomous spurs. Why? Professor Velthor's question came out as almost a wail. Why would evolution create such things? Because Earth is competitive, Minji explained. Resources aren't unlimited. Environments are harsh and changeable. Species had to develop extreme adaptations to survive. But humans survived, Dean Colrath said. More than survived. You developed tool use, language, civilization, and space travel. We're actually pretty weak compared to most Earth predators, Yuna said. We're not the strongest, fastest, or most venomous. We're just smart and stubborn. Dean Colrath was quiet for a long moment, her scales shifting through several different colors. Finally, she spoke. I need to convene an emergency meeting of the academic board. In the meantime, I want all 3 of you to prepare a comprehensive presentation about Earth's ecology. Include context that will help other species understand why these adaptations exist. Are we in trouble? Jiho asked. No, the dean said, but I think the galactic community has severely underestimated what it means to be from a death world. We need to correct that misunderstanding. As they left the office, Jiho looked at Minji. I really didn't mean to cause all this. I know, Minji said, but welcome to being a human in space. Everything we think is normal is nightmare fuel for everyone else. The next 3 days were the strangest of Jiho's life at the academy. News of his presentation had spread across the entire station, and suddenly everyone knew about the humans and their terrifying homework assignment. Some students crossed to the other side of the corridor when they saw Jiho approaching. Others stared at him with what looked like a mixture of fear and morbid curiosity. A group of students from the ethics department started a petition to have humans removed from the academy for safety reasons, but not everyone reacted with fear. A smaller group of students became fascinated, wanting to learn more about Earth and its extreme ecosystem. They started attending special seminars that the human students organized to explain their homeworld. Jiho sat in the cafeteria with Minji and Yuna, eating what the food synthesizers insisted was nutritionally appropriate for human biology. It tasted like cardboard, but it kept them alive. "I got another message this morning," Yuna said, showing them her data pad. "Someone asking if it's true that humans can break their own bones and keep functioning." "Well, we can," Minji said. "I mean, it's painful and not recommended, but humans have definitely finished fights, escaped danger, and even completed athletic events with broken bones." "That's what I told them," Yuna replied. They responded with 16 shocked face emojis. Jiho noticed Terry approaching their table. She moved slowly as if uncertain whether she was welcome. The small crack in her shoulder structure had been repaired, but there was still a visible line where the damage had been. "May I sit with you?" Terry asked. "Of course," Jiho said, gesturing to an empty seat. Terry settled onto the chair designed for crystalline species. Her light patterns were muted, not showing the usual rainbow refractions. "I want to apologize," she said quietly. "When you gave your presentation, I reacted very badly. I was afraid. But fear is not an excuse for how I treated you afterward." "You didn't treat me badly," Jiho said. "I avoided you in the corridors. I didn't speak to you in shared classes. That was wrong." Terry's light patterns flickered with what Jiho had learned was embarrassment. "I have been researching Earth. The more I learn, the more I realize how extraordinary humans are." "We're really not that special," Jiho protested. "That is exactly what makes you special," Terry said. "You don't see how remarkable your survival is. To you, Earth is normal. But Jiho, your planet would kill me in hours." She pulled up a holographic display showing environmental data. "Earth's gravity would crush my crystalline structure within days. The oxygen levels would react with my silicon-based biology and cause toxic degradation. The temperature variations exceed my species' entire habitable range, and that's before considering the predators, the toxins, and the diseases." "I never thought about it that way," Jiho admitted. "Because you have never known anything different," Terry said. "But I have been thinking, if humans can survive on Earth, what else might you be capable of?" Over the next few days, Terry became a regular presence around the human students. She asked endless questions about Earth, taking detailed notes on everything from weather patterns to childhood activities. One afternoon, she seemed particularly disturbed by something she had researched. "I read that human children engage in an activity called climbing trees," she said. "This involves ascending tall wooden structures with no safety equipment, often reaching heights of 10 meters or more." "Yeah, that's pretty normal," Yuna confirmed. "It's fun." "You consider recreational falling risk to be fun?" Tyree's light patterns flickered with confusion. "We don't usually fall," Jiho said. "And if we do, kids are pretty resilient. I broke my arm falling out of a tree when I was 9. I was back climbing trees 3 months later. You broke a structural bone and then voluntarily returned to the activity that caused the injury?" Tyree sounded genuinely bewildered. "The cast came off and the bone healed stronger than before," Jiho explained. "That's how human bones work. They repair themselves and reinforce the breakpoint." Tyree was silent for a long moment. "Human children play in ways that would be considered extreme sports for most species. Your idea of fun includes broken bones, falling from heights, and swimming in water deep enough to drown in. When you put it that way, it sounds bad," Minji admitted. "But that's my point," Terry said, her voice taking on an excited tone. "You don't see it as bad because you have completely different baseline assumptions about safety and danger. To humans, Earth is a safe place to raise children." Hyun joined the conversation then, emerging partially from his shell. He had been avoiding the humans since the presentation, but curiosity seemed to be overcoming his fear. "I have a question," Hyun said hesitantly. Your presentation mentioned that bears hibernate for up to 7 months. Most species need to eat every few cycles. How long can humans survive without food? Depends on body fat and water access, Minji answered. With water but no food, humans can survive for several weeks. The longest documented survival was over 60 days. Yun retreated slightly back into his shell. That's impossible. That would require metabolic systems completely unlike anything in our biology databases. Humans are endurance specialists, Yuna explained. We evolved to keep going when other species would have to stop. It's why persistence hunting worked. We just don't quit. A small crowd of alien students had gathered around their table, listening to the conversation. Some looked frightened, but others seemed fascinated. A student Jiho didn't recognize spoke up. She was a Delcarian, a species that looked like a floating collection of bioluminescent bubbles. I read Earth's historical databases. There are records of humans surviving in environments that should have been instantly lethal. Desert regions, with no water. Arctic zones with temperatures far below freezing, even the vacuum of space for brief periods. We're really good at making tools and adapting, Jiho said. That's kind of our thing. But you also make your planet more dangerous for yourselves, another student pointed out. Your cities are filled with vehicles that move at lethal speeds. You build structures dozens of stories tall. You even leave your planet in chemical-powered rockets that explode if anything goes wrong. I mean, we're careful about safety, Minji said. But yeah, we do take risks that other species probably wouldn't. Tyri had been accessing more files on her datapad. Suddenly, her light patterns flashed bright with alarm. I found something disturbing. According to Earth's terraforming documents, humans are planning to make Earth more habitable. Yeah, climate change is a big issue, Jiho confirmed. We're trying to stabilize temperatures and reduce extreme weather. But the target parameters you list, Terry said, showing her display to the group, are still far beyond what most species would consider survivable. You're trying to make a Class 12 Deathworld slightly less deadly, but it will still be a Class 10 or 11. The implications of that statement seem to hit everyone at the same time. Humans consider Earth too dangerous, Hyun said slowly, but their goal is to make it merely extremely dangerous instead of impossibly dangerous. And they have the technology and determination to actually do it, another student added. The crowd around the human table had grown larger. Students from dozens of species watched the three humans with new expressions. Not just fear anymore, but something else. Respect, maybe, or concern about what humans might be capable of. A Kresik, student not Dohyun but someone from the same species, spoke in a chittering voice. If humans can survive Earth and they have the technology to modify planetary environments, what would they be capable of on a garden world? We're not looking to colonize anyone else's planets, Yuna said quickly. Earth is our home. We're just trying to take care of it better. But Jiho could see the questions in the alien students' eyes. They were realizing that humans represented something new in the galactic community. Not just another species from another world, but survivors of an environment that would kill most galactic citizens. That evening, Dr. Suman called a meeting with the human students. She was a queller like Hyun and Professor Velthor, and she worked in the xenobiology department. I need to be honest with you, Dr. Suman said. I requested that humans be admitted to this academy. Why? Minji asked. Because the galactic community has become complacent, Dr. Suman explained. We have thousands of species, but almost all of them evolved on garden worlds. We think we understand biology, ecology, and survival. But we don't. We only understand our own limited experience. She pulled up images of Earth. When I first read about your world, I didn't believe the data could be accurate. But then I investigated further. I realized that humans represent something extraordinary. You are proof that life can thrive in conditions we thought were impossible. So we're here as an experiment? Jiho asked. You're here as teachers, Dr. Suman corrected. You just didn't know it yet, and neither did anyone else. The academy's main auditorium was packed. Students from every department had come to see the special symposium that Dean Colrath had organized. The event was titled Deathworld Adaptations and Galactic Survival. and it had attracted attention from across the station. Jiho stood backstage with Minji and Yuna, all three of them wearing formal human clothing. They had spent the past week preparing for this presentation, working with Dr. Suman and other xenobiology experts to create something that would educate rather than terrify. "Ready?" Minji asked. "As ready as I'll ever be," Jiho replied. They walked onto the stage together. The auditorium went quiet. Hundreds of alien students watched them with expressions that ranged from curious to concerned. Dean Colrath stood at the side of the stage. "Thank you all for coming. Today we will learn about Earth and its inhabitants. I ask that you listen with open minds and remember that different does not mean dangerous." Minji stepped forward first. She activated a holographic display showing Earth from space, the blue and green planet rotating slowly. "This is our home," she began. "Earth is classified as a Class 12 Deathworld, which means it has extreme environmental conditions by galactic standards. But to humans, this is just where we live. Today we want to help you understand why Earth is the way it is, and how life adapted to survive there." The presentation was structured differently than Jiho's original homework. Instead of just listing survival strategies, they explained the context behind them. Yuna took over, showing images of Earth's diverse environments. Earth has extreme variation in temperature, weather, and terrain. We have deserts where it doesn't rain for years. We have rainforests that get several meters of rain annually. We have Arctic zones where temperatures stay below freezing for months, and equatorial zones where temperatures can exceed 50 degrees Celsius. This environmental pressure created intense competition for resources. Minji continued. Species had to adapt or die. The adaptations we see on Earth are responses to survival challenges. Jiho stepped forward for his part. When I presented my homework, I talked about bears and hibernation. Let me explain why that adaptation exists. He showed images of seasonal changes on Earth. In many regions, winter makes food scarce. Plants don't grow and many animals migrate or die. Bears evolved hibernation as a way to survive these periods without starving. It's not cruel or horrifying. It's actually an elegant solution to a difficult problem. The audience was listening carefully now, their initial fear replaced by genuine interest. The same is true for venom, Jiho continued. Snakes are relatively small predators. They can't overpower large prey through strength alone. Venom evolved as an efficient hunting tool. One quick bite and the prey is immobilized. It's actually less violent than many other predation strategies. Terry was sitting in the front row, her crystalline structure refracting light in focused patterns that indicated intense concentration. Yuna moved to the next topic. Now let's talk about humans specifically, because here's something interesting. Humans are not the apex predator on Earth. This statement caused murmurs throughout the auditorium. Minji pulled up comparison charts. Humans are weaker than bears, slower than big cats. We don't have venom, claws, or natural armor. By most physical measures, humans are actually pretty fragile compared to other Earth predators. So how did we survive? Jiho asked rhetorically. We adapted in different ways. We developed intelligence, tool use, and cooperation. We learned to use our endurance, our problem-solving skills, and our ability to work together. He showed images of human evolution, from early hominids to modern humans. Persistence hunting wasn't about being cruel. It was about using the advantages we had. Humans can sweat, which allows us to cool down while running. We can track, plan, and coordinate. We turned our weaknesses into strengths. And that's the real lesson, Minji said. Earth didn't make humans strong. It made us adaptable. The presentation continued for another hour. They explained photosynthesis, weather patterns, plate tectonics, and the water cycle. They showed how Earth's challenges created innovation, diversity, and resilience. Finally, Yuna addressed the fear directly. We know some of you have been scared since Jiho's presentation. That's understandable. Earth is very different from garden worlds. But humans aren't dangerous. We're just survivors. We don't want to conquer or intimidate, Minji added. We want to learn and share knowledge. Yes, we come from a harsh world. But that harshness taught us cooperation, creativity, and compassion. Jiho concluded the presentation. My homework assignment was supposed to describe survival strategies. I picked 3 that seemed simple to me. I didn't realize they would be shocking to others. But that's exactly the point. We all have different perspectives based on our experiences. Understanding those differences is how we grow. The auditorium was silent for a moment after they finished. Then slowly, students began to applaud. The sound built gradually, becoming louder as more students joined in. Dean Colrath returned to the stage. Thank you for that enlightening presentation. I now open the floor for questions. Hands, tentacles, and various appendages shot up around the auditorium. A student Jiho didn't recognize asked the first question. If Earth is so dangerous, why do humans want to stay there? Why not relocate to a safer world? Because it's home, Yuna answered simply. We love Earth with all its challenges and beauty. We wouldn't be who we are without it. Yun raised a tentacle. You mentioned that human bones can heal stronger after breaking. Does this mean humans can adapt to physical damage during their lifetime? Our bodies have repair systems, Minji explained. Bones, muscles, even some organs can heal and regenerate to a degree. It's not perfect, but yes, humans can recover from injuries that would be permanent for many species. Terry stood up, her light patterns bright with excitement. I have spent the past week researching Earth's climate adaptation strategies. You are working to reduce global temperatures and stabilize weather patterns, but I found something interesting. The target climate you are aiming for is still more variable than most inhabited worlds experience. Have you considered that other species might be able to help with this effort? The three humans looked at each other, surprised by the question. We haven't really thought about asking for help, Jiho admitted. I guess we're used to solving our own problems. Perhaps that is another adaptation we can all learn from each other, Terry suggested. Humans have survival strategies we lack, but we have technologies and knowledge that might help Earth become more stable. Cooperation across species could benefit everyone. Dean Colrath's scales shifted to a pleased blue color. An excellent suggestion, Terry. I believe this could be the beginning of a new research initiative. More questions followed. Students wanted to know about human childhood, education, medicine, and culture. The fear had transformed into curiosity. After the symposium ended, a crowd of students surrounded the humans. Do-hyun, who had been absent from classes since fainting during Jiho's original presentation, approached hesitantly. I apologize for my reaction, Do-hyun said, his translator converting his clicks into words. I was frightened by information I did not understand. But you have helped me see things differently. Earth is harsh, but humans are kind. No apology needed, Jiho said. I should have provided more context from the beginning. Over the next few weeks, the Academy transformed. The petition to remove humans was withdrawn and replaced with a proposal to expand Deathworld studies into a full program. Students began signing up for new courses about extreme environment biology, comparative survival strategies, and cross-species cooperation. Terry approached Jiho one afternoon in the library. I have made a decision, she announced. I want to apply for the Earth Exchange program. Wait, what? Jiho was startled. You want to visit Earth? I am terrified, Terry admitted, her light patterns flickering with anxiety. But I am also a scientist. Earth represents the ultimate challenge for xenobiology. I want to understand it. You know you'll need a protective suit, right? Minji said, joining the conversation. Earth's environment would be immediately lethal for your biology. I am aware, Terry said. But humans survive there naturally. If I can learn how Earth shaped your species, I can expand the entire galactic community's understanding of what life can achieve. Dr. Suman's plan was working. The humans weren't just students at the Academy anymore. They were bridges between the protected garden worlds and the harsher realities of the universe. 1 month after the symposium, Jiho received his official grade for the original homework assignment. Professor Velthor had written an extensive comment alongside the perfect score. Student Jiho, your presentation fundamentally challenged 300 years of assumptions about biology, survival, and the nature of life itself. While your delivery could have been more sensitive to your audience, your content was academically impeccable. You have taught us more than any standard curriculum could, though perhaps next time, include a content warning. Congratulations on your perfect grade and on inadvertently revolutionizing xenobiological studies. Jiho laughed as he read it. He showed the comment to Minji and Yuna, who both grinned. So your homework assignment literally changed the Academy's entire approach to biology, Yuna said. That's pretty impressive. I just wrote about bears and snakes, Jiho protested. Exactly, Minji replied. You described normal Earth things and accidentally made everyone realize how limited their perspective was. That evening, Jiho sat in his dorm room and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, spinning through space with its harsh climates, dangerous predators, and resilient life forms. He had grown up thinking of Earth as normal, maybe even a bit boring. But now he understood what made it special. Not because it was deadly, but because life had found ways to thrive there anyway. Humans weren't stronger, faster, or more venomous than Earth's other predators, but they were persistent, creative, and adaptable. They turned challenges into opportunities and weaknesses into strengths, and maybe that was the real lesson of his homework assignment. It wasn't about showing how tough humans were. It was about showing how perspective shapes reality, and how much everyone could learn from each other's differences. His datapad buzzed with a message from Terry. I have completed my application for the Earth Exchange program. They estimate I can visit in 6 months with appropriate environmental protection. Would you be willing to show me your homeworld? Chiho smiled as he typed his response. Of course. Just remember, what I think is a nice easy day on Earth might need that content warning Professor Velthor mentioned. Terry's reply came quickly. I am counting on it. That is exactly why I want to go. Chiho looked back out at the stars and thought about home. Earth with all its challenges and beauty. The death world that had created persistence hunters, problem solvers, and survivors. He couldn't wait to show it to someone who would finally understand what made it extraordinary.